Greetings and welcome to another Patch Notes video here at Words About Games, a weekly video series that lets us host discussions and post opinion pieces about our various thoughts on games, gaming, and the industry. Today we're going to be talking about some of the more overlooked games of 2018. These are 10 smaller games that I played last year that I enjoyed, but didn't really seem to get as much attention as I thought they perhaps should. So if you're looking for something a little bit different to play, or perhaps you just want to put a few games you may never have heard of on your radar, then check a look at the following games. And if you like anything you see, store links for each game are in the description below the video. At Sundown is a multiplayer arena action game where up to 4 players enter one of a series of levels and must kill each other to rack up points and win. The twist is all of the levels are covered in darkness, and you can only see yourself and other players when you attack or dash. Otherwise, you're invisible, which creates a great sense of strategy and a lot of chaos as you attempt to approximate where you and your opponents are. Trying to gain the upper hand when you can't see yourself or your enemy is difficult, but also a lot of fun. I spent a long time waiting for At Sundown, having first come into contact with the game by trying out a demo early in the year. Truth be told, this game almost passed me by completely as it launched at a really busy time for me, but I had a blast with what time I managed to carve out of this game, and it's on my mind whenever I'm looking for a multiplayer game to play with friends or stream. Some of its modes are more successful than others, but I highly recommend you check out the mode that limits all players to the same weapon. But if you're into fast-paced, frantic multiplayer action, you'll be able to find a good time with At Sundown. Battle Princess Madeleine is an action platformer that draws a lot of inspiration from classic platformers such as Ghouls and Ghosts or Wonder Boy 3 in everything from its core gameplay, world and level design, difficulty level, and art style. It's also a really good time exploring the world with the titular hero and the ghost of her pet dog and best friend Fritzy, with really tight platforming and combat and a series of interesting levels for you to make your way through. The story of how the game came about is just as cool as the game itself. Developer Christopher Obrich created the game for his daughter, who wanted to be in her favourite game, Ghouls and Goblins. So he set about making exactly that, and now the rest of us can also enjoy the game. There's a nice story mode that tells an almost fairy tale-like story of good versus evil, but the truly best part of Battle Princess Madeleine is in its arcade mode, which strips back the story and presents the game as one much closer to its 8-bit inspirations as an almost purely gameplay experience. Either way you play it, Battle Princess Madeleine is a fun time if you're in the market for a retro-style action platformer. Bunker Punks is a roguelite first-person shooter where you control a group of revolutionaries who raid corporate bases for supplies and weapons, taking them back to build up your own base and increase your power to attack even stronger targets. It matches the incredibly fast-paced classic first-person shooters such as Quake with the gameplay mechanics of roguelites to create a fairly compulsive game that can keep you locked in its loop for a decent amount of time. I couldn't tell you how I heard of Bunker Punks, but I spent a while waiting for it to leave early access so I could dive in and explore everything it had to offer. It's a really solid retro-style FPS, but it's in its roguelite elements where the game stands out. Taking the spoils of your raids back to base with you to unlock new characters, weapons, gear and abilities creates a fun and compelling gameplay loop, and one that can keep you entertained for hours at a time as you slowly increase your power and gear options to make each level a little more manageable. Distance is a futuristic puzzle driving game that only really hits high gear once you've cleared its campaign and unlocked the custom-made tracks and bonus levels it has to offer. Don't get me wrong, the game's 4-ish hour campaign is an enjoyable time with a really smooth difficulty curve that effortlessly sees you go from simple driving to solving 3D 360-degree high-speed traversal puzzles without breaking its flow at all. But once you have access to the tracks that others, including the developers themselves, have created, that's when the game really comes alive. There's a really good community behind Distance that have made some really awesome tracks for you to tackle, and the developers themselves have added a bunch of bonus tracks that make use of every mechanic you learned over the course of the story mode. There's also potentially no limit to how much you can play this game, thanks to the track generator that can produce new courses at will. With slick controls, an abundance of style, and some really awesome game mechanics, Distance was one of the better and more unique driving games of 2018. There were a few games starring mice as protagonists in 2018, and one such game you might have missed out on is Ghost of a Tale, a stealth-based RPG that casts you as a prisoner called Tyler attempting escape and looking for his lost love. Direct combat with your captors, rats who are more than twice your size, isn't really an option in this game, and instead you'll need to sneak, run, gather disguises, and find help from other characters on the prison island. Oh, and it's super adorable, as you might imagine of any game where you get to play such a cute protagonist. The standout feature of Ghost of a Tale comes from its map and how its world has been designed. It's open world, but quite small, with interconnected paths that will see you opening shortcuts and backtracking to gain access to new areas. It's also very densely packed, with very little in the way of wasted space. Each area of the game serves a purpose in one way or another, with an abundance of hidden secrets and side quests complementing the main quest. The stealth mechanics are also really well implemented too, with great controls and an enemy AI that is actually quite competent. Also, have you seen Tyler's little outfit? So cute. Laser League is a multiplayer arena action game that pits you in a futuristic sport of death matches and lasers. In this game, your job is to wipe out the enemy team, but you very rarely attack them directly. Instead, you'll need to claim an ever-increasing number of pillars that create moving laser walls. Claim one for your team, and if the opposing players touch it, they'll be knocked down. It's a brilliantly addictive and highly tactical multiplayer game with tons of high stakes and last-minute turnarounds thanks to some pretty brilliant game design. Character classes play a big role in the tactics you'll employ in the arena. There's only one class that can directly attack and incapacitate other players, and that one comes with a pretty major flaw that can see you dashing into laser walls. The rest are all designed around controlling the arena or manipulating other players, with abilities that stun opponents, or make you invincible for a few seconds, or push players across the map, and more. Figuring out combinations for your team to take into battle is compelling, and often the difference between victory and defeat. Mother Gunship is an arcade first-person shooter with roguelike elements that sees players assaulting a series of randomly generated alien ships, crafting whatever insane weapons they can get their hands on inside each level to maximize their chances of success. You'll start each level with a limited number of weapons and hardpoint attachments you can take with you, and must buy the rest from shops with gold scavenged from destroyed enemies. It's a real joy putting together crazy creations inside dungeons as you start affixing more and more weapons to your arms and really going bonkers with the type of weapons you can create. With the right components, you can create quad-link shotguns, combine rocket launchers with miniguns, create almost literal walls of bullets, and so much more. You can get as creative as you want, limited only by your imagination and an energy capacity that drains faster the more damage you're outputting. Married to the slick, fast-paced first-person combat mechanics and the verticality of your movement and the levels, and Mother Gunship is a solid first-person shooter for fans of the genre. The Gardens Between is a sweet puzzle game about two best friends who are transported to a strange, almost dreamlike island made up of larger-than-life versions of real-world objects. You control both time itself as you move time forwards and backwards, directing both characters to interact with the environment and make changes that will allow them to make it to the end of each level. The puzzles you'll find here are really quite clever. They're never overly complicated, thanks to the simple but effective controls. But it's the way you'll need to interact with the environment that truly makes the puzzles great, with some highly inventive puzzles that constantly had me impressed by how the developers had put them together. It's a relatively short game, taking me around an hour and a half to complete, but it's one that'll stick with me thanks to how well put together these puzzles are, as well as the emotional story that it weaves into each level with a kicker of an ending. Underhero is a platforming RPG game that casts you as a bad guy who accidentally kills the hero during his journey to face the final boss. After you do, you'll be chosen as the new hero and have to take on the mantle of hero's journey, even though you're basic underling of the main bad guy. Underhero is a brilliant send-up of RPG tropes pretty much from the off, with an awesome sense of humour that never failed to bring a smile to my face or make me laugh, poking fun at the more traditional RPGs you've probably played dozens of times over. It's also a really solid game. Underhero's combat is a particular highlight, eschewing turn-based fighting for rhythm-based combat, where critical hits occur if you attack to the beat of the music, and you'll need to dodge telegraphed attacks while managing your stamina and waiting for opportunities to strike. It's a really compelling system of mechanics that I'd love to see replicated in other games. You're also able to talk to enemies before initiating a fight, as you're technically supposed to be on their side, which is a really great way of finding hidden secrets, unlocking lore and backstories, and just delivering some really great jokes. If you're a fan of RPGs, Underhero is well worth your time checking out. Wizard of Legend is a roguelike dungeon crawler that places emphasis on timing and comboing spells and abilities. While touring a museum, you're transported to the kingdom of Lenova and have to go through a series of trials to earn the title of Wizard of Legend, unlocking over 100 unique spells as you go and building your playstyle from them, creating devastating combos to obliterate the enemies that stand between you and victory of each of the 3 trials you'll need to pass. It can be a great feeling when you start putting combos together. Testing out different spells and figuring out which combos work well is a blast, especially when you find some of the truly devastating combos and begin to lay waste to enemies before they've even managed to fire off their first attack. The fast-paced nature of the gameplay plays into this really well, and it's a compelling gameplay loop as you delve into dungeons to keep expanding your arsenal of spells and create more powerful ability combos tied to your own playstyle. It's also pretty tough, with many runs dedicated solely to unlocking new abilities or simply learning various enemy and boss attack patterns. But it's a heck of a lot of fun too, more so if you play co-op with a friend, and it was actually right on the edge of being included in my top 30 games of 2018 list. Thank you very much for watching this video, guys. If you've enjoyed it, please keep it here at Words About Games. We've got tons of content, including our weekly podcast, more impressions videos, patch notes, and our weekly indie game of the week. We also stream over on Twitch at twitch.tv/wordsaboutgames every Monday, Thursday, and Saturday. And most importantly, have a great day.